Luigi Di Maio, the 31-year-old Five-Star Movement M5S leader, hopes to soon walk into the Italian parliament as the youngest prime minister in Italian history. The bold young politician believes his party is the one solution answer to Italy's deepening economic recession and migrant crisis. He said last year, the only possibility for the other parties is to support a five-star government. We are the only chance of stability. Either they support us or they vote again, but with less than 48 hours to go before the ballots open, Mr. Di Maio's chances of single-handedly securing a majority government are looking slim, in fact, less than 5% according to Luigi Scazzieri of the Centre for European Reform, CER. Mr. Scazzieri told Express.co.uk, it's something very unlikely to really happen. People feel that living standards aren't picking up again, and largely the EU is being blamed for this because of the austerity measures imposed on Italy. Luigi Scazzieri, Centre for European Reform at the moment. M5S is leading the polls as the single biggest party to enter parliament, followed by embittered rivals, the Democratic Party, Partito Democratic (PD), and leader Matteo Renzi. A hung parliament appears to be the most likely outcome of Sunday's general election, meaning Italy's future will be decided by a coalition government. One way or another, M5S has left its mark on the election, clawing back ground from underneath the PD, which has been in power for 5 years. Mr. Scazzieri attributes this to the PD failing to address the burning issues of Italy's sluggish economy and uncontrolled migration problem. Getty Italian election 2018, Luigi Di Maio could become Italy's youngest prime minister ever if he wins, said. People feel that living standards aren't picking up again, and largely the EU is being blamed for this because of the austerity measures imposed on Italy. The second main reason is migration. In the past 4 years we've seen about 600,000 people arriving, many are economic migrants from Africa and the Middle East, so this has really benefited those parties that have taken a strong stand against migration, mainly the centre-right but also the M5S. In order for the M5S to govern alone, it would need to secure a minimum 40% of the ballot. The latest polls suggest the party would only score about 26 to 28%. Wednesday, February 28, 2018, Silvio Berlusconi's Forza Italy party is pro-European, but demands a greater role in the EU for Italy. Mr. Scazzieri said it is hard to pinpoint where exactly the party could be headed if it takes over the reins of power, for several reasons. The expert said, in a sense it remains a bit of a mystery because the M5S have so far not presented a complete program for government. In the past few days they've come up with a shadow cabinet and many of the figures are quite moderate. For example, their guy for the economy wants to remain in the Eurozone and essentially wants to change EU fiscal laws. Political thermometer Italian election 2018 polls. The Five-Star Movement leads the polls. While they will be the largest party, it is unclear whether they will want to govern. First of all, the M5S could also become something of a pro-Russian mouthpiece in Europe. Mr. Scazzieri said, in foreign policy they are anti-militarist and pro-Russian, but not in the same way someone like Le Pen is. They might make noise on easing sanctions on Russia, but they wouldn't change foreign policy in any major way. Getty Italian election 2018, the party softened its previously hard anti-EU stance. A M5S victory could be a source of shock and friction for the European Union, depending on how big of a victory N is. In the run-up to the general election, the M5S significantly softened its signature anti-EU stance, where former leader and ex-comedian Beppe Grillo proudly boasted his distrust towards the European institution. Mr. Di Maio confirmed on his very first day as party leader he wants to stay in the EU. Mr. Scazzieri said, in the short term the EU would be quite shocked. If the M5S is the largest party it's one thing, but if they are so large they can single-handedly form a government, then it would be another. There would be initially a lot of friction as the M5S adjusted to power, but ultimately it would depend on the government team they draw up. If it's the one they presented as a shadow cabinet the other day, then presumably there would not be too much friction. On the other hand, if they go in a more extremist direction, they could create friction with the EU. Italy will head to the polls on Sunday, March 4 to elect its next government, from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. local time, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. The first exit polls are expected to be released as soon balloting ends, but it will take several hours before the results become clear.